going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 89 of the Silver and Gold podcast. I'm Josh,
And I'm Mike.
and today we have a very depressing episode because the 49ers just decided, you know what, this week will be the Raiders. So we'll start there, and then we'll work our way to the Raiders. The 49ers lost to the Texans on the road in a game that I think we all pretty much expected that they would win. So it was an ugly game on Sunday morning, and the final score was 26-15. Mike, were you able to catch any of this, or were all the games on Sunday just so bad that you're like, I'm not watching football?
No, I watched maybe most of the Niner game. Um, just I think for fantasy football implications, I had the Texans defense, and I felt like I was kind of stuck with them. There was no other really great option in my opinion on waivers.
Yeah.
And strategically, I plan on keeping the Texans for a while. So I just started them, and I figured with no Pearsall, no Purdy, Kittle has 0 catches last week. Um, I just thought, I see the Texans defense and I see a really good defense. And maybe I should have thought about it more last week when we were doing our predictions, because maybe I would have thought more about, like, you know what, maybe the Texans can beat the Niners. Because in that first half, they were beating the living shit out of the Niners, specifically in the trenches.
Yep. No, to be very blunt, the 49ers got dominated and lost this game by not showing up until the second half. And also, they had opportunities to come back into the game late, but they did not. They missed out on every opportunity, right? So I want to say in the first half, the 49ers had they had three and outs, and the Texans just chewed up the clock. So I'm just gonna start there on what stood out to me. The time of possession. So the 49ers couldn't stay on the field, and the Niners defense couldn't force the Texans off the field. So the Texans possessed the ball. Mike, do you want to guess what the time of possession looked like for this game?
I want to say it was like 20-40 or maybe 25-35.
You're pretty close. So the Texans had it for 41-22, and the 49ers had it for 18-38. So you're not going to win many football games, with those numbers. And the Texans ran 75 plays of offense, and the 49ers ran 44. So that's a big part of the story. But also the 49ers secondary, they got torched, and Stroud spread the ball around, and the 49ers gave up the following to the following players. Xavier Hutchinson had 5 catches for 69 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Noel had 5 catches for 63 yards. Braxton Berrios, 5 catches for 38 yards. Jaden Higgins, 4 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown. And then I'm pretty sure the next two are just tight ends. I know Schultz is a tight end. Dalton Schultz, 2 catches for 24 yards. Jared Wayne, 2 catches for 20 yards. So, not many catches, but pretty efficient from those two guys. The next thing that stood out to me was that Woody Marks gave the 49ers defense a lot of trouble. He had 11 carries for 62 yards, 4 catches for 49 yards, and there was one really big play in there where, he had, a lot of open space and just, he took it. He had a good day. Sky Moore also stood out to me because about a week or so ago, it might have been after the Falcons game or the game before that, I was talking about how Sky Moore fielded some punts inside the 5. And, there was one play in this game where the Texans punted the ball, and it bounced. I want to say it was inside the 5 or maybe inside the 10. And it backed up the 49ers at the 1 or 2 yard line. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was critical of Sky Moore for fielding it inside the 5. But when I did mention that, I did also mention that I'm not an expert on punt returns. So maybe he thought the ball had backspin or something. So now I guess I understand a little bit more about his decisions from either last week or a few weeks ago, whenever it was. But the next thing that stood out to me also was the 49ers finally lowered McCaffrey's touches and the offense suffered. He had 8 carries for 25 yards and 3 catches for 43 yards. I thought McCaffrey was actually killing it on the receptions late in the game. And there were a few plays where I feel like McCaffrey was open for the check down and Mac Jones should have taken the check down. But honestly, the person to blame for this, for this entire thing is myself, because I traded for Christian McCaffrey in fantasy this past week. And now that he's on my team, we're officially cooked, guys. That's the end of Christian McCaffrey. And it's my fault.
Something I was thinking during this game was I wonder how much of a good beat D'Amico Ryans had on Shanahan's offense, being the ex-coordinator for the defense. But I really think above that, like in all seriousness, this was just a game that was won and lost in the trenches. Like the Niners offensive line was getting absolutely murdered, play in and play out. They had 3 straight 3-and-outs to start the game. And their defensive line has practically nobody. And I think Alfred Collins got hurt in this game, if I'm not mistaken.
He got hurt, but I think he came back in. And then Jordan Elliott got hurt. And then like a third defensive lineman got hurt. So really the 49ers are just they're best friends with the medical tent.
Yeah.
Or the medical staff. Or maybe actually very very close enemies with the medical staff and the training staff, if we're being honest, because the results we're getting are very alarming, and they lead the NFL in games missed since 2017.
Yeah, it checks out.
But this has been a problem since like 2014. But the past 8 years has been under Shanahan, and it's like this year is one of the exceptions of we've been able to overcome the injuries somehow. And I think the schedule kind of plays a part into that. But yeah, I don't know. The next thing that stood out was Diamador Lenoir's interception right before halftime. I don't know if Lenoir had any visual of the clock, like on a Jumbotron or something, but if he did and saw that there was time left, he should have gave himself up so that the special teams could try and kick a field goal. If he didn't see the clock or thought that the time would run out regardless before it being blown dead, I understand in that scenario like why he tried to score, because it's like, well, the time's going to run out. I better try to take it to the house. But he had a couple seconds, didn't go down. Ultimately, the Niners missed a small opportunity there, but maybe it changes the game, maybe not. It just felt like the Niners didn't show up. But here's how they did with my keys to the game that I gave last week. So key number 1 was continue to find ways to generate pressure, and they did not register a sack. So the absence of Bryce Huff and Nick Bosa was really felt in this game. The second key that I listed was to limit Nico Collins, and the 49ers did a hell of a job of that, because after we finished the podcast on Monday, Nico Collins got a concussion on Monday Night Football, and he was out for the game, but it didn't matter because, like I mentioned earlier, there were other Texans receivers that stepped up, and Stroud did a good job distributing the ball. The third key I had was to protect the quarterback, and the 49ers allowed 2 sacks, which isn't horrible, but the best they did to protect Mac Jones in this game was just the fact that the Texans were on offense like the entire game, and the Niners couldn't keep the offense on the field, and they couldn't keep the Texans offense off the field, or they couldn't take the Texans offense off the field. But overall, this game was pretty horrible to watch, but I look forward to better days ahead with Ricky Pearsall hopefully able to return next week against the Giants, which we'll talk about that in a second, and possibly the addition to Brandon Ayuk later in the season. Mike, do you have anything else that you want to say about this game?
Um, no, nothing I can think of.
Yeah, I'm ready to move. I'm ready to move on. I don't want to talk about that game anymore. It was one of the worst games that honestly, it was one of the worst weekends of football in a while. Although there a couple of weeks ago, I do remember like some really bad games on, but there were like 6 teams on bye, and so there wasn't a lot of. I felt like the options were limited for watching football in our local broadcast, and like there was like one game that was decided by one score. So yeah, just not a good week. So we can move on to the 49ers versus the Giants. So the 49ers are going to be on the road on the dreaded MetLife Stadium turf Sunday. And they're going to be facing the Giants at 10 a.m. I see this being a very tough game for a few reasons. The 49ers, number one, are on the road. Jackson Dart has looked pretty promising. I'd say maybe not like a drop back passer to, really dice up the defense, but he's looked promising in that he can use his legs to get first downs and really keep the defense like on their heels. Um, and the Giants have a really good pass rush. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter. So really, there's a couple reasons for this game to, I think, be closer than maybe 49er fans would initially think. Um, Mike, do you have anything that you want to add on to that before I get into the keys of the game?
Well, I think if Scadaboo were still playing,
Mm.
I would have a harder time picking this game. Um, I mean, a lot is up in the air. I guess that was part of it with last week with the Texans. Was I expected Purdy to play, so when I picked the Niners, I think it was just like, oh, a foregone conclusion. Um, and I had kind of already assumed at that point, I think, that Nico Collins was going to be out for a week with the concussion. Um, but now without Scadaboo, it just feels like it's if the Giants win this game, the Niners are in trouble. That's how this game feels. Maybe I wouldn't call it a trap game, um, because I think the Giants are just injured, and so are the Niners. Uh, but for a team coming off a loss, I mean, both teams are coming off losses. But for the Niners, coming off a loss, in a game that you probably thought you should have won, and outright getting beat down, really, you know, by the Texans. Coming off of I think what you're now 5-3.
Yes.
So you were 5-2. You were like tied for the lead in the division. Now you're 5-3. You lose this game, and all of a sudden your playoff hopes get a whole lot less optimistic. Not that you won't make the playoffs, but just that suddenly it just got 2 games harder. You know?
I think it's honestly right now the Niners are kind of hitting their hardest patch of their schedule. They've got the
Mm.
Giants this week, they've got the Rams, then they've got the Cardinals, the Panthers, then the Browns. Now, the Panthers you mentioned in the group chat, you know, how are the Panthers how do they have as good of a record as they currently do?
I I didn't know, and that was during their game, so I think they lost, right?
They're probably like 4-4, right?
Probably, yeah, because they were playing the Bills. Uh, yeah, the Bills definitely won. They actually kicked their ass, if I'm not mistaken. But I want to say, yeah, they were probably 4-3 going into that game, so they're probably 4-4. It's not what they're 500. It's like, whatever. That sounds about right for them. But I mean, if they get a win and then they go on to face you guys, it's gonna be like, whoa, here they are again in a thick race with you guys. Um,
This low key might be a must win game for the Niners because all right, I'm gonna name to you their remaining opponents for the rest of the schedule because I said that this might be the toughest stretch, but there's gonna be another tough stretch the final 3 games of the season.
mm,
So look, all right, they've got the Giants this week, Rams, Cardinals, Panthers, Browns, bye, Titans. Then they have to go into Indianapolis against the Colts. Then they have the Bears. Then they have the Seahawks.
Hmm.
But they finished those final 2 games at home. I'd say those last 2 games are winnable. I don't know about that Colts game, but we're looking very far ahead. But
Right.
you know, it's if they want to make the playoffs, they got to take care of business when they need to. And so you
Yeah.
mentioned this game against the Giants might be a trap game. I think that the game against the Texans was the trap game. I think that was the trap game for sure because we were riding an emotional high after them beating the Falcons, and you know I didn't think the Texans had a chance to win that game, and then they just came in and dogged the 49ers.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the Giants still have Tyron Tracy. They still have Devin Singletary. Uh, so they're, it's not like they're depleted at running back completely.
Yeah,
But their wide receiver game, not all that impressive. Um, without Malik Neighbors, obviously. But you bring up a good point with their pass rush, because if the Giants are able to disrupt the Niners offense the way that the Texans were in the first half of this last game, the Giants will win this game, you know. Um, but I'm personally not going to count on that 2 weeks in a row from Shanahan, especially if Purdy does come back. Um, I got to go with the Niners here. I think if Scatterville were in this game, though, I'd probably pick the Giants. Like, it's that close for me.
really. So here are my keys to the game, and then I'll give you my prediction. So key number one, they have to get the ball out quickly. My expectations for this offensive line are a bit low against this New York pass rush, and I think the game plan should call for quick passes that eat up, like a few yards at a time as they milk the clock and keep Mac Jones upright. Last week, Jalen Hurts behind a better offensive line at home was sacked 4 times. So, keep the ball coming out quick. Number 2 is going to be attack the Giants' run defense. Saquon Barkley and Tank Bigsby had a monster day on Sunday. Those two combined for 254 rushing yards. I think Bigsby had like 100, and Saquon had like 150. So the 49ers should try and get McCaffrey going, get the run game going. And then my third key is maybe not so much imperative to win this football game, but I think that they should try and reestablish Ricky Pearsall into the offense if he plays. Ricky Pearsall has missed the past 4 games with his knee injury, and I think that if he's able to play, I think it would be nice to get him involved even in a limited fashion because he's currently the best non-McCaffrey Kittle weapon on the offense. So I think having him back would probably be huge to lighten the load on the box and just kind of have another vertical threat. And then obviously when Brandon Ayuk comes back, that'll probably help too, as long as he's like back and healthy. So my prediction, I predict that Kyle Shanahan is going to bounce back, and I think he's going to have the proper game plan to attack this New York Giants football team. I predict that the 49ers will win on the road and take care of business. I do want to mention, though, that I am terrified to say that because I have only been right once this season when it's come to my 49ers predictions. Can you believe that, Mike?
Repeat that?
I've only been correct once this season, the Saints game. Every other game, I predicted the wrong winner between the Niners and their opponents.
Interesting.
Yep. So are you gonna pick against me? You gonna switch your pick? Tough guy?
I'll stick with the Niners.
Yeah. But I'm terrified of that MetLife turf.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of just want to get in and get out of there,
Yeah, it kind of makes me feel like I should have traded for McCaffrey maybe after next week or after this upcoming week, just to make sure. But Now, I took that risk. Knock on wood. I mean, either way, Mike, I'm not going to win the championship. Okay. I just want to throw that out there. Let that be known. This isn't my year. Somebody else's name is going to be on that trophy. And I hope to God it's not Mike's. Yep. Mike, I think we're ready to move on to the Raiders.
Yes, sir.
All right. We can finally talk about the Raiders versus Jaguars. So the Raiders are at home against the Jaguars coming off their bye week, and they play Sunday afternoon, I think at like 1:05. Mike, what do you make of this matchup?
This one is at home, right?
Yep.
Right. This was another game that I would have liked to have gone to, simply to see Travis Hunter. Back before the season started, when I was looking into tickets for like the Bears game and the Jaguars game, the Jags game was literally half as expensive as the Bears game tickets on average. And I just thought, wow, that's such a better deal because I can see this number 2 overall pick that is playing on both offense and defense. How cool would that be? But of course, with my luck, if I'd, secured tickets in like week 2, Travis Hunter would have been out for like 4 weeks or some shit by the time we got there. As far as this game, I'm not going to the game. I really don't want to pay money for this team right now. I've got too many other things to pay for right now, so.
You're not a loyal fan.
As far as this game, huh?
You're not a loyal fan then.
Well, it's kind of rough times right now, I'd say.
See, the real Raider fans go no matter what.
American finances. What's that?
Real Raider fans go no matter what.
Yeah, it's not really how it looks right now in home games.
I'm fucking with you, Mike.
I don't know how well Jaguars fans travel, but it'll probably look like they travel well this weekend. And that would have been annoying to see. What do I think about this game? I mean, early on in the season, I felt like the Raiders had a pretty good run defense, but I feel like, the Washington game and I feel like there was another game recently where we just got ran all over. I mean, the Chiefs just threw all over
us. The Colts. The Colts.
We played the Colts? Oh, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, you played the Colts. Well,
yeah, that's right.
Actually,
I remember. I knew that we played
Colts. The Colts played you guys.
Yeah. Well, we lose like 44-3 or some shit like that.
It was
so traumatic. I erased it from my memory.
Yep.
No, I knew we had the Colts in the schedule. I just, for some reason, I was like, did we play them yet? Yeah, I really hated that experience and just kind of deleted it from my mind. Thank you for reminding me of that game. But yeah. So basically, point being, our run defense isn't as good as like it kind of initially looked. So I think there's a shot here for Travis Etienne and company to have good run games. I think above all though, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. has had kind of a rough season, at least statistically, but also like at times effort wise, like he hasn't looked like he's really trying all that much.
He's missing Mac Jones.
I guess so. But maybe this is a get-right game against Kai Blue Kelly and, everybody else in the defensive backfield. I wouldn't be shocked if Isaiah Polamau doesn't play in this game. It looked like he got a pretty significant injury towards the end of the Chiefs game 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. But I don't know the significance of it. But yeah, I would expect their pass game. I'd expect Trevor
Lawrence
to have a good game. I'd expect Travis Hunter to have a pretty good game. Whether he's playing on offense or defense, probably both. I mean, he could have a good game. This could be his Hall of Fame, this could be the start of his real rookie of the year campaign, you know, because he plays such a dog shit team. Um, I feel like every week I have to fit in the word dog shit towards the Raiders on this podcast.
You
Uh,
seem to
but you
think
know,
pretty highly of them.
yeah, yeah. I just have to belittle them because they're so good. Um, because their heads are getting so big. Um, but I mean, this is the opportunity for him to like just say, "Look at me now." You know, I was the number two overall pick for a reason. You know, I just caught 2 touchdowns, and I also got interception in this game. Like, how cool would that be? Um, yeah, and then I mean, I don't even really know many of their defenders, but they'll probably all have good games at this rate. Point being, I mean, the Jaguars should win this game. The only thing that gives me pause is that the Raiders are coming out of a bye week. And I guess this is where I can get a little optimistic for a second. Um, they should have spent that bye week really self reflecting, especially coming out of that Chiefs game. Like, yo, we just got curb stomped. We got blown out. We got shutout. We got shut out in this game versus the Chiefs. They literally uh, mercy ruled us. They started they started kneeling at with 2.5 minutes left. Both teams had 3 timeouts. I've never seen it before. Um, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to change the fact that in the first like 9 to 12 plays on offense, actually I think the first 15, which are usually the opening game script, right? Like the offensive coordinator comes in and it's like we're going to call these 15 plays, right?
Yes.
13 of them were passes, 2 of them were runs. Somewhere in that ballpark. I think I'm right, but I might not be. But point is, you draft a running back 6th overall. Are you really going to do that? You have a quarterback who's leading the league in interceptions, and you're going to leave the offense to him? Really? I mean, weeks 1 and 2, Jacoby Myers statistically looked great, and then all of a sudden his targets go down, his catches go down. I mean, we should trade him if you can. Will they? I don't know.
They're asking
I
too
mean, we
much
could
for
talk about
Jacoby
that.
Myers. They're asking way too much.
Yeah, there was a report that was sent in the group chat that apparently they're looking for what a like a
A
day
day
two
two.
pick will move them. I I don't know. That just seems that seems odd to me. Like, why would they okay? Jacoby Myers has been asked in public, like, you know, do you still hold up on your trade request? He's like, oh yeah. Like, basically, they asked him, like, you know, do you want to be here? He's like, I mean, I essentially not really, you know. Um, and I don't fucking blame him one bit. I hope the best for him. He's a good ass player, and somebody should trade for him. I just wouldn't blame any team to be like, if the Raiders say, yeah, we'll take a second round pick, please," and they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go talk to the Dolphins instead, and we could probably get Jalen Waddle for the same price. Probably not, but you know what I mean. You
Yeah.
know. Um. So what they really should do is they should look at whatever the hell the comp pick formula is, and however the hell that works, and say, okay, what would Jacoby Myers get us in 2027? Bear in mind, as a comp pick, and then that should be our asking price for 2026. It's as simple as that. So if it's a 4th rounder, which fuck, why am I forgetting his name? Cody, is it Cody? Maybe it's not Cody. Somebody on Twitter. Wow, I'm totally forgetting his name. That's how
Raider
much I
Cody?
just don't care.
Raider
No,
Cody?
no, no,
No.
no. I know it's not Cody. It's oh my gosh, whatever. The guy on Twitter that I follow pretty heavily for like Raiders stuff. Um, I'm just so out of it lately. I don't even remember names. He was saying that Jacoby Myers is kind of projected to be in whatever model to be a 4th round comp pick get for the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's based off of like what his future contract looks like and what have you. So let's say that that's the case. Well, then they should be asking for a 4th round pick in 2026 because we need picks now, right? If you guys are going to get fired in a year, you're not going to see that comp pick. So you should take the 4th round pick now, or I'll even go a step further. If it's the buy or the trade, deadline, and it's the day of, and some team calls and they say best you'll get from us is a 5th, take it. Take it. Get what you can because he clearly doesn't want to be here. And now you sign Tyler Lockett to just clump up the wide receiver room. Which there's a whole other conversation to be had that I really don't feel like having. But I'm starting to notice that the personnel decisions really do seem to be Pete Carroll led. Because there's no way in hell that a team that's 2-5, should be signing a veteran receiver like Tyler Lockett when you have rookies that need snaps and need to develop, I mean, I get it if it's like, oh, well, they're not really helping us win. Yeah, but, we're not going to the playoffs. I understand this coach mentality and team mentality of, we're not going to tank, we're not going to, blah, 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 but, admittedly, you also have to understand that, the 5th overall pick is way better for you than the 9th overall pick. As a franchise, it's so much better for you. Just ask the Patriots, who had the 3rd overall pick and got Drake May. Ask them versus the Raiders, who got Brock Bowers. What's actually better? Love Brock Bowers to death. Haven't seen him since week 1 or 2. But, Drake May is suddenly... he's getting MVP talk in year 2 of his career.
Yeah, this is...
under Josh McDaniels, no less.
Yeah. The Raiders could use a coach like that.
Totally. I mean, I think there are coaches that are better coordinators than head coaches, clearly. And he's one of them. I don't know. Just the Tyler Lockett move baffles me.
It doesn't surprise me because he was on the Seahawks.
It doesn't fully surprise me, but also, in my mind, when he got cut, I saw people saying, oh, Raiders. And I was like, why wouldn't he go to the Bills? Yeah, why wouldn't he go to the Ravens? Well, the Ravens actually have a worse record than us or some shit. The Colts. Why not go to the Colts?
They have the same record. No, there you go. No, actually, you might be right because they played one more game.
Yeah, I think they were 1-6 and they won, so they're 2-6.
No, hold on. No, they didn't play one more game. Ravens record. Ravens are 2-5, and the Raiders are also 2-5, right?
Yeah. But they're just waiting on Lamar, and then they should start winning. But still, why, if I'm Tyler Lockett, would I go anywhere else other than obviously Pete Carroll? I don't know. There's a conversation to be had, and I think when the season ends, I'll have a more formulated opinion on Pete Carroll. But I had this thought this morning, actually, just thinking about the Raiders and everything and seeing that we had signed Tyler Lockett. For some reason, the Raiders signing Tyler Lockett really pissed me off. And it kind of makes me think that if they end the season and, they get those useless wins, let's say they win this week. I'm just going to be upset. We need the quarterback. We need to rebuild. Or maybe not rebuild completely, but this needs to be the start of the rebuild, right? I think you can keep Max Crosby in a, for lack of a better term, rebuild, but, you need the quarterback. You need to build up the youth of this team and develop the roster. That's the point. Not necessarily completely overhaul everything, but just it's going to take some time.
I almost wonder how many first round picks that they can get for Max Crosby, and I would seriously consider doing it.
Yeah, I think they wouldn't get more than 2. I think what's fair for Crosby is similar to the Khalil Mack and whatnot, 2 firsts and a third, or the Micah Parsons deal, 2 firsts and a player. That's what I would ask for. And there comes a point where maybe that's what they should do. I think it's hard because of his age, because I think he just turned like 28 or something like that. Um, so if they go, like what I was gonna say is, you go next season and it's the same. It's just like you end the season at 5-12, and you're last in the division. You have the 7th overall pick. That's when I would probably trade him. But at that point, he might be going on. He's going to be going on 30. Like, is a team going to be willing to give up 2 firsts at that point? I don't think so. Maybe, but I doubt it.
Crosby's trajectory and the Raiders' trajectory, I think, are way off, and I think it's probably in their best interest right now, while he's still in his prime, to probably get the most that you can get for him before, you know. All right, if Max Crosby at this point in his career suffers a devastating injury, who's gonna be moving all that capital for him?
Right.
Like, how long can he stay in his prime is the question. And
Yeah.
if he, like, he could be a solid defender, but Crosby, he's got the name to him now. So even on a a rebuilding team, you're gonna have to pay that premium contract, unless he's just so in love with the Raiders that he would take a pay cut if he does know his play is sort of diminishing. How many years does he have left of his contract, Mike? Do you know?
If I'm not mistaken, 5.
5,
if not 5
years
and
left?
4, because they extended him this offseason. I think it used to be 3, and then they gave him like 2 years on top of it, or it used to be 2, and they gave him 3. It's one of the two.
Dude, honestly, the Raiders could probably get a good haul, because another team won't have to sign Crosby to there won't be that risk. It's, we're gonna trade you Max Crosby, and you're gonna have him for the next 5 years, right? Also, Anthony C's tuning in and asks a really good question. He says, Mike, if the Raiders continue this trend another 5 to 10 years, do you give up on them entirely?
I mean, define give up, I guess. Like, would I still be doing a podcast about them? Probably not. No offense.
Well, don't say that.
Yeah, I'd be so tired. The point is, I would still be a fan, and I'd be still rooting for them. It would just be that there comes a point where at first it's, you know what, they're not worth my money, right? But then it becomes a point where, you know what, they're not even worth what's free, which is my time. And once they are no longer worth my time, that's when my care for them will just go way down. And, the amount that I show my care for them and sort of personify that, will diminish. Will I ever completely give up on them? Hell no. Would I become, for lack of a better term, a fair weather fan? At some point, yes. Not only because it never ends, and, it's tiresome and it's not worth my time at that point, but also, like, I have my own life. Like, I'm kind of in this age range where I need to figure myself out and, do bigger things for myself. And if I'm focusing every Sunday on that to a degree, like, that's stupid. When every single year it's the same shit. Like, at some point I'd probably look back and be like, wow, that was dumb as fuck.
To answer your question, Anthony, I'm just going to translate it for Mike. Translate it to non-Raider fan speak. Mike is in need of a good Raider season, because the last time he had that, we were in high school. No, you had already graduated. Yeah, you graduated high school. So
coming up on 10 years since that season.
Yeah, Anthony said that got deep. Hello. Yeah, Mike's. Anthony asked, "Yeah, will you still be a fan?" And you're like, honestly, they wouldn't even be worth my time. I'm almost at I'm at a a 1/3 life crisis right now. Like, honestly, I don't even know how long I'm gonna live to. I got to start figuring things out for my future. Like, damn, Mike, it's just, hey man, are you still gonna like this football team? Would you switch to another team? Like, are you just gonna be an NFL fan? Like, and then you're like, every morning I wake up and every day feels a little colder than the last.
Yeah. No, I think if he asked a little different, like if you asked me if the Raiders keep this up, would you switch teams? The answer is hell no. Like I'll always be a Raider fan,
Mm-hmm.
but the level of my fandom can absolutely and probably should change if it stays at this rate.
Yeah,
That's what
you're
I'm saying.
okay. You just redeemed yourself because I was like, man, 39 minutes into episode 89 of the Silver and Gold podcast is going to be a very clippable moment. One day the Raiders are going to be good, and we're going to be doing this podcast, Mike. And then you're going to be like, yeah, we waited a long time, and then everybody, when we finally get 1 million subscribers, I think we're like, we're a good chunk of the way into that goal. No. That's a reminder to subscribe to the channel. But we're just gonna have people clipping that part where you're like, you know what? If they keep up, just this dog shit trend, they're not even gonna be worth my time. And then, I know at the time you're gonna be saying, this is what we've been waiting for my whole life. Like, you're going to be like, I waited my whole life for this. And then there's going to be people, since you put it out on the internet, you're like, if they keep this up, they're not going to be worth my time. I know all it's going to take is for the Raiders to draft a quarterback that shows hella promise. Like, if the Raiders get a top 5 quarterback, I know you're just going to be so happy.
That's what I've kind of been waiting for.
Yeah. Hey, would you be a fan like Tyler though, where you just like everything is everybody's fault except for the quarterback?
I think my past experiences have shown that I'm not that type of fan, specifically with Derek Carr. Like, I will give them a very strong benefit of the doubt early on, but he had a magical season in 2016 that was by no means perfect, but like, dude, oh my god. And then after that, he, in my opinion, kind of changed. And by 2018, I was very hard on him.
Yeah. You know what I've noticed? I've noticed you kind of inherit the personality of the head coach of the Raiders a little bit. Like, every time the Raiders have a coach, it's like, all right, right now, the answer you gave was like a very like, yeah, I'm getting old. I'm getting up there in age. Pete Carroll's pretty old. Like, you're like, I got to figure some things out before I'm gone. And then, like when Antonio Pierce was the coach, you were like, honestly, yeah, Raiders. Like, you were pretty energetic and everything. You're like, honestly, fuck the geniuses. This is what the fuck we need, right? And then when Gruden was the coach, you're like, Chucky's back, man. I tell you what, And then before that, you were like, yeah, we just need to chew away victories, small gains, just manage the clock. I think that's what Josh McDaniels can do. And you're like, I kind of like this Patriots regime with Ziegler coming in and like, just kind of looking at things all analytical. Mike, I think you're like like Anthony said, it got deep. I think we're getting deeper. We're hopping into not just your mind, but your soul. And you're like a chameleon, You're a Raider chameleon. It's just you kind of mirror what the Raiders give you.
Right. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
All I know is with each and every single one of those coaches that you just named, I was calling for them to get fired before they got fired.
Yeah.
So maybe they have an effect on me early on. The same question with your quarterback thing. Like, I'll be pro quarterback. I'll be pro head coach when it's initially done. Like, I'm just naturally I want to look at something optimistically and not be like this super negative. Before I can even get any evidence of how they're going to, whether it's play quarterback or coach the team, I'm going to be like, well, they hired them for a reason. Let's see what it is. And I'm going to hype them up until they show me otherwise. And every single one has shown me otherwise why they should be fired. So
Mm-hmm.
I lost faith in Gruden by like year 2.5. He could not evaluate talent. He traded Mack, he traded Cooper. And I mean, back to the Crosby thing to really make this kind of full circle. I don't like the idea of trading Crosby. Of course, I like the idea of 2 extra first round picks, but have we ever been able to utilize that to our maximum ability as a franchise? The answer is no. To the point where I would rather just have a Hall of Famer on our team than to not. Oh, but we could have 2 Hall of Famers on our team. Yeah, or you could have nothing, right? It's like that joke of it could be another boat. Right now we have a yacht, and if we get 2 first-round picks, it's like, well, we could get 2 yachts. Yeah, you could also get 2 rowboats that have like big gaping holes in the bottom of them. That's what we do every time. We trade in a yacht for 2 fucking wooden rowboats with the middle with a fucking hole in it. This fucking big.
Hey, Josh Jacobs was a good pick, though. That was one of the...
Josh Jacobs was a great pick. That was probably the only great pick.
If you had Khalil Mack, you guys think that maybe you still take Max Crosby when you did? Was he part... Like, all right, it was Khalil... Was he part of the Khalil Mack trade? Like, did you guys get a 3rd-round pick or something? Because that's when you took Crosby, right?
We got a first, another first, a second. Or did we give up a second and then we got a third? It was a weird ass trade. It was a lot of shit going on that was, just completely unneeded. But I don't think Crosby was a part of the trade. I think he was our natural 4th-round pick.
4th round.
Yeah, but I mean, technically speaking, I think they would have still picked him because I think they were higher on him than most. And the other reason why I think they would have picked him is because they picked Cleveland Farrell in the 1st round of that same draft. So, if you swap that with just having Khalil Mack on the other side, like imagine Khalil Mack is still going right now. Like imagine Khalil Mack and Max Crosby on the same team. Like how much better would we be?
Would you keep Khalil Mack if you knew that they weren't going to take Crosby? Like if that would have changed their strategy?
Geez, I mean, for the sake of their future right now, it's hard for me to say yes to that because, the possibility of us trading Max Crosby or just the fact that Max Crosby in today's NFL, like forget the past, just look at it from today and on, Max Crosby will last longer than Khalil Mack for the next 10 years, right? Or so, however many Max Crosby decides to play. Khalil Mack's probably got 1 to 2 years max in him, So technically speaking, Max Crosby gives us more opportunity to win games. But I will say, Max Crosby has not won Defensive Player of the Year. He has not won All-Pro at multiple positions in 1 year. He probably has way less Pro Bowls than Khalil Mack. I don't know about that one, but I'd have to imagine. When we traded Khalil Mack, he was on a Hall of Fame pace. And I can't necessarily say the same for Max Crosby, but what I can say for Max Crosby, because I'm not trying to slander him at all, I'm just telling the truth, Max Crosby is on a franchise, Ring of Honor sort of, trajectory. And trading Khalil Mack kind of alters that vibe, Like if you had kept Khalil Mack, it'd be like he was our greatest defensive player ever, all this shit. And then you trade him, it's just like, well, that was fun, And then we'll see if he becomes a Hall of Famer, and then he'll go in as a Raider, Bear, Charger, and it's weird. I don't know. I just I like them both, and it would have been nice to have kept Khalil Mack and just build around him, and just not draft Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, because like it's weird how the NFL changes over the course of a decade because like, you know, I I remember a time when Khalil Mack, when he was just a Raider and it's like, oh, he's going to be remembered as a Raider. But like now he spent more time away from the Raiders than he's played for the Raiders. It's just like
Yeah.
crazy how time flies. Um, real quick. Last question, then we're gonna kind of bring this back to Raiders Jaguars. We went on a huge tangent, but Anthony C says if Pete Carroll doesn't work out, would you go for Robert Saleh or Mike McDaniel?
Um, I would not go for Mike McDaniel at head coach. I think he's more fitting for coordinator, perhaps similarly, but not in the same way as Josh McDaniels. Um,
Honestly, I said it
I,
last week. They could fire Chip Kelly and bring in Mike McDaniel.
yeah, depending on the timing and how it all works, but yeah, I think well, we'll get in the Jags in a second, but yeah, I think I would lean Robert Saleh. I'm very curious to see who the big coaching candidates are going to be this offseason. Not that I expect Pete Carroll to get fired, but you know, I think another season from now could be different.
Mm-hmm. So I do want to talk about this game again because I didn't really get to give my keys to the game or my predictions yet. So uh, key number one is going to be limit the Jaguars' running game. That means Bashal Tootin and Travis Etienne gotta Raiders have to stop them. They've got to generate pressure on Trevor Lawrence. Otherwise he's going to have all day to throw to Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. And number three is going to be win the time of possession, and four, protect the football. And I am talking directly to Geno Smith when I say that. And do I think the Raiders will do all four of those keys? Nope. So I'm predicting the Jaguars are going to come in and dominate the Raiders. I think that the final score will look something like 27-10 or something like that. I think the Raiders are done.
Repeat those four keys as fast as possible, like summarize them. Just hit me with them.
Win the game.
Well, one by one.
Limit the Jaguars' running game. Generate pressure on Trevor Lawrence. Win the time of possession and protect the football. That's the key to any football game, pretty much.
Yeah, I agree with all those. Number five, for me, run the damn ball. I don't care if you're down 20. Run the fucking ball.
I feel like
Because
the
that Chiefs
Jags'
game was
run
an
defense
absolute
is
joke.
good, though. I feel like the Jags' run defense is good, though.
Yeah, but I just think you look at this roster and the way that it's built, it's clear as day from the jump when Pete Carroll was hired, or at least when he started making roster moves, that the identity of this team, or at least this offense, was to run the ball. So if you don't run the ball, what's your identity other than losing? That's their identity right now, is losing the fucking game, and sucking. So, and having players on the trade block and shit like that. So, I say run the ball. And especially if you want to dominate the time of possession, as every team does, you have to run the ball. You can't go 3-and-out after 3 passes that go incomplete. That's why they lost so historically badly in Week 7 against the Chiefs. Other than the Chiefs being a good team and just cutting us by paper cuts, play by play by play. Because Mahomes is that good and Geno's that bad, right? And our defense is that bad, but you have to run the ball. I don't care how good their run defense is. You have to run the ball multiple times a drive. And if you're going to lose by it, you're going to lose by it. That's your identity. That's my opinion. I'd rather lose that way, not just because Janty's on my fantasy team, but because you have to do it. You just have to. If that's the identity of your team.
So you want Ashton Genty to be the NFL version of Chris Paul? And Ashton Genty, he sprints to the left. Oh, he's going down the 30, the 20, the 10, touchdown. And the Raiders cut the lead to 34.
Yeah, I mean that's how the Colts game probably should have gone, but and the Chiefs game. But yeah, I also have the Jaguars in this game. Um, I just don't see it, and I think the Jags are kind of a on the rise sort of team, and the Raiders are currently fighting for the first pick sort of team. So
hmm Hey, I got a little bonus topic right now. We were gonna do it last week. This will just be quick. All right. Will Okay, I've got it. Ready?
yes,
Will the Raiders win again? Let's go through the remaining games on the schedule and we'll just kind of see what games that we think that they might win. Did we do
yeah.
it last week or no?
I don't remember if we did. If we did, we did it really quickly. But I remember texting you about this a day or two prior to that podcast.
Yeah. All right. So against the Jaguars, you've got the Jags, right? You're taking the
Yeah, we
Jags.
both have the Jags.
All right. At the Broncos,
Broncos.
I'm taking the
They just
Broncos.
beat the shit out of the Cowboys.
Versus the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys are just gonna freaking score on a pace that the Raiders cannot possibly match.
That should be
Uh,
a fun game, but the Cowboys will win
versus the
because both
Browns.
defenses are bad. Browns defense is better than people think. It really just depends on how their quarterback plays. But is it winnable? Yes, but I still think the Browns will win.
Okay. At the Chargers.
Chargers.
Uh, Broncos at home.
Broncos.
At the Eagles.
Eagles.
At the Texans.
I mean, that's another winnable game, but I think their defense is like kind of playing at a top 5 pace right now in the league. And I think they would beat our ass.
Yeah, especially after what I saw this week, I got the Texans in that one.
Yeah.
Versus the Giants.
The Giants are a little bit more winnable now, but I swear every game that they play, they are in it.
Yep.
This Eagles game kind of got away from them, but I don't know. They seem like a team that at least offensively, ever since Dart has come in, they are in every game. They might even have the lead in most of these games at some point. Um, is it winnable? Absolutely. I would still pick the Giants to win that game today.
Yep. And last but not least, versus the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, I mean the Raiders have to win that one, right? They have to get them at least once a year. No, I mean what's going for the Chiefs in that game is that they aren't, 8-0 right now. They're still I think they finally have a winning record now. They might be like 4-3 or something like that. Or actually maybe they're 3-3 because they're playing right now.
I think they're the best
Or
team in football again.
yeah, that's how it feels. After last week, that's how it feels. We'll see how they play tonight, but they should beat the shit out of the Commanders with no quarterback. So yeah, the Chiefs should beat us that week. The only question is, are they resting starters to prep for the playoffs? That will purely depend on what they are seated at going into that game.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Broncos and Chargers keep it up, chances are that game will be very important to the Chiefs, and they will beat the living shit out of us.
Yep. So there you have it.
So
The Raiders
yeah,
might not win again in 2025. So
that's what I'm hoping.
this bye week was a revelation for Raider fans because this might be the last week until January, right? No,
Or late
until
December.
December. Yeah,
Probably
January.
probably January. Yeah.
Yeah, the final week until January that you might not hear. Oh, the Raiders win. So, for all we know, the Raiders are going to finish 7-9, and Mike is going to 7-10, and Mike is going to absolutely like be upset and tuned out.
Well, I mean, if they go 7, if they actually manage to win 7, so 5 more games out of that list of games, that might actually be somewhat impressive with Geno Smith and whatnot, being what they are, that I might be kind of confident in, like, oh man, actually Pete Carroll clearly knows how to coach, which I know that, but it hasn't felt that way so far for the most part. Although I kind of think his problems mostly lay in Chip Kelly and personnel decisions, but besides the point, I think the way that you meant to put that was this was the last week where we will or should not hear
Yeah, this bye week. This bye
this
week was.
bye week. Sorry, this bye week was the last week, for a while through January, that we didn't hear the Raiders lose,
Yep.
right? Because we didn't win in the bye week, but we also didn't lose. Whereas I think we are on a very strong path towards losing out through January. But I will say, and this can be the final, you know, point of the podcast here. The Raiders did actually lose two um, big people in the Raiders organization this weekend. They lost, obviously. Oh, damn. Well, they lost. Okay, today, this morning, I woke up to uh, news that George Atkinson passed away. And he was the kind of, for the Raiders, legendary safety of the 70s and 80s during their Super Bowl runs. And a guy who, as, Raider alumni, stuck around with the franchise for a long time. If you ever watched anything on NFL Network talking about anything that happened in the 70s relative to the Raiders, whether it was, a football life about Al Davis or, uh, Kenny Stabler or somebody like that, I guarantee you George Atkinson was in there talking about some legendary Raiders story. Um, and if there were things about the Steelers in the 70s, I guarantee you George Atkinson popped up in there and was talking fat shit. That dude was a Raider through and through. He had two sons. One of them was George Atkinson Jr. Unfortunately, one of them passed away pretty soon after I think they kind of had, runs in the NFL as well. Um, but yeah, uh, it's unfortunate. It's sad to hear. Um, and, George Atkinson is a Raider legend for sure. And then the other loss that we had was Carol Davis, the, I suppose, widow of Al Davis, right? Perhaps the queen of the Raiders, right? But Mark Davis's mother passed away this weekend, and she was 93. Um, so a long, long life. Um, so it sucks to hear. Rest in peace to both of them. I'm sure it's a tough time for Mark Davis and the Atkinson family. Um, but those were two losses that the Raiders did endure this weekend, even on a bye week. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but
No.
that's not the main point of that.
Rest in peace to George Atkinson and Carol Davis. It was Carol, right?
Yeah, Carol. It was funny. Well, not funny. Tyler said something about the Raiders possibly being sold soon because of it, and I didn't text in the group chat at the time, but I was kind of like, well, I could see why somebody might think that, but the way that I always took it was Mark Davis kind of immediately became the sole owner of the franchise when Al Davis passed away. But it was always interesting to me that it probably stayed in the family, and Mark was just like put in charge, if you will, of football decisions. Um, but it was always interesting to me because I knew that Carol Davis was still alive when Al Davis passed away, and we see other teams with owners who are the dominant owner of the franchise is the female or the mother or wife in the family, um, and it's not like it's weird or anything. It just I just when it happened when Al Davis passed away, I thought, oh well, then Carol Davis will be the owner, and then it just went straight down to Mark, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which totally semi off topic, but reminds me of the Colts right now.
That owner,
She is a badass, dude.
dude, she's awesome. I tweeted about it
I
because, all right, people kind of talk shit about like how she's micromanaging them, but no, I actually love that like she's on the sideline and she's taking notes and
she's
like
in it, dude.
she's on top of it because it's like I would actually love to see that. You know, if Jed York was doing that, I would think that's a good idea, and just kind of
Yeah,
like I think it shows that the football team means a lot to her. It's not just the business of it. It's that was her
it.
dad's football team, and so
Yeah,
she's trying to do everything to honor, her father, and
right.
keep the or make sure that the Colts are as good as they can be, you know. So people are like, bro, imagine if your boss was standing right there, like taking notes about you, and I'm like, yeah, but this is fucking football.
Right. I'm curious how involved she is with like meetings and whatnot. But it does make me think like at the end of the day, if you're the owner and you are the person that is in charge of hiring and firing people, it is so smart to be as heavily involved as possible because otherwise you're just firing and hiring people because that's what you think is right rather than that's what you know is right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like if Mark Davis decides to fire Pete Carroll in a year or two, or I guess in a year because after 2 years his contract expired. Anyways, is it because he knows that he should because he's been in the rooms and he's this that whatever he's been on the field, or is it just because oh I'm tired of it, it's not working out, and that's what he thinks is right, but maybe it was always going to take 3 years. I don't know. It's a stupid example, but it's just I will say it is kind of perfect that they're 7-1. So naturally, it's like, dude, what a badass. But if they were 1-7, we'd be like, they look like idiots right now. But regardless, um, I do think it's cool. I do think it's very cool because most owners, I think, do go to all the games and all that. I know Mark Davis has his seat. You always see like Arthur Blank or this owner, that owner. I've never seen like the Rams owner. Like just thinking of different teams, I can't think of like the Cardinals owner. Like there are certain owners that you see at every game. Mark Davis is one of them. Arthur Blank for the Falcons is one of them. I don't know if the Niners owner goes to every game.
No,
I
he
have no
does.
idea on every
Yeah.
team. Okay.
Yeah.
I would figure
Um,
most owners go to every game. But it's
yeah.
cool just to see an owner on the field at all times taking notes and like headset on listening. Like that is cool and very smart.
Yeah. Well, all right. I know Jed does, but I'm pretty sure that his parents don't. John York and uh, uh, DeBartolo York. What's her name? Is it Lisa? No, hold on. Eddie DeBartolo's sister. Denise. Sorry, I don't know why I said Lisa. Um, yeah, Denise. I think it's like when she is in the building, there's like the social media team will like post her, or like, I'll just kind of see it. But for the most part, Jed is the owner, but like his parents technically like kind of put him in charge. So that's why
Hmm.
like when they were doing bad, Grant's dad asked him, you fired 3 coaches in 3 years. Like, why don't you fire yourself? Right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, I own this football team, but like technically his parents did. But nonetheless, I started laughing at the idea of you said like that the Colts would look like idiots if they were like 1-7, and just like the
Mm.
the whole taking notes thing. Dude, I was just like, yeah, I would love it if my owner did that. But like, could you imagine if from day one Mark Davis started taking notes and he's still, like imagine for the past 20 years if Mark Davis would have been taking notes and like they're just bad every single year, and it's
Yeah,
like
either
I wonder
way.
what he's writing. Like it would be a meme,
Yeah.
dude. Like what's Mark Davis writing down on
Yeah.
that paper? Like he's just playing tic tac toe during the game.
Yeah.
But no, the Colts owner, she's doing amazing, and that got me to think. All right, real quick, I'm like, uh, in Indiana is like kind of having their own little boom right now of like sports because I was just thinking they got Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. The Pacers were just in the finals, and then the Colts are like hella good. Uh, that got me thinking like, is the WNBA still like, is their season over? Like, WNBA. I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
When
The actually Vegas won. Mark Davis's team,
they won when?
like a couple weeks ago.
Because like I do not remember a single. I don't remember a single thing after Caitlin Clark got injured, and I was just thinking about like how there's all these debates about like, well, it's not really debates, but like the WNBA players don't want to hear that like people are just tuning in because of Caitlin Clark. But I swear the WNBA got zero media coverage after she was out for the year.
I I'm not gonna lie to you. I forgot that she had gotten hurt, and no offense to the WNBA, I didn't know that they had their NBA or WNBA finals until it was over. And Tom Brady, who part owns the Aces, tweeted a picture, congratulating them on winning the championship. I had no idea. Bear in mind, though, I think part of the reason for that is because, at least for me, I don't subscribe to cable television anymore. I just follow news on Twitter, and I might stream things here and there. But back in high school, a little after, and mostly before that, I watched Sports Center every day, so I knew every important thing to know in all of sports. Where 95% of the time I was just waiting for NFL Live to pop up or whatever, but I still knew top 10 plays. Here's what's going on in the NHL. Here's what's going on in this. Oh, today in the WNBA, um, and what have you. And I would at least be entertained by that of like, okay, what's going on? Now I don't have that because I don't myself and my family for the most part don't pay the atrocious amounts for cable. Um, so I think that's why I'm just out of the loop with WNBA because no offense, I don't I've never been a big fan of it. In the
Cable
sense of I've never cared to be.
cable
Again,
makes
no offense.
cable makes zero sense why it's as expensive as it is. Like in 2025, it makes zero
Yeah.
sense because like all the streaming and everything, it's like you can literally get just like on demand put on what you want to watch and pay for no advertisements. And then cable, it's like it's hella expensive. Although I will say streaming is becoming as bad as cable because everything's going up in price, and
It's
they're
worse if you have
shoving,
everything.
yeah, they're shoving
Yeah.
advertisements and everything. And as Papa J says, or exactly Papa J's point, is that where Caitlin Clark plays? Uh, that's kind of my point. There was no coverage of the WNBA after she got injured, so you know, I I don't know why I decided to bring that up on the pod. I just genuinely had that question for Mike, like, which I guess tied to the Raiders because, you know, uh, Tom
Their
Brady and
owners are
yeah,
invested.
Mark
Yeah.
Davis. But
I
yeah,
mean, it admittedly has seemed to get a little bit more popular over the past couple of years, but still, for whatever reasons, none that I would suggest, it's just not that popular to the American sports fans.
mhm. I'd
So,
say it was incredibly popular as soon as Caitlin Clark got drafted. Because like I'm not even gonna lie to you, the tournaments that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were in college, like the NCAA tournament, the March Madness stuff. The WNBA, I mean the women's basketball was way better than the men's basketball. Like way more
hmm.
interesting. I'm not
Yeah, I
saying the
think
players
they're,
were better, than the male
yeah.
players, but it was definitely like more fun to watch.
Yeah, I think the March Madness gets better coverage because of the name than the WNBA.
Yeah, but I'm saying like for me personally, the WNBA this past year was pretty interesting with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, like when they were rookies, and now this is what their second year. Like people, I think it's like, all right, there's just this like, they're tied together because they were like rivals in college. The whole I forgot like what I forget the whole situation of them taunting each other like after their game or whatever or whatnot. But
Mm.
it's just like how we had Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. It's kind of like
Yeah.
that, but I don't think that Angel Reese is on that level.
Right. No.
Every time I watch her, it's like she gets her own rebounds. You know, like she's
Oh.
very dominant in getting rebounds.
Right.
So other than that, yeah. But really, that's all that we have for the rest of the pod. Papa J tuned in. Sorry, Papa J. It's you tuned in kind of to the end of the show. Honestly, Mike, there was a point in time I was like, man, this show might only be like a half hour long. We were like in the middle of the Jaguars section before we went on the little tangent that we went on,
Yeah.
and I
We
was
were on a
like,
good pace.
dude, it was like, is this
I wish
pod
the
gonna
Raiders
be?
were on a bye every week.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish the Niners were on a bye this past week.
Yeah.
I don't know why
Anyways.
it feels like the Niners had their bye already, but they're a team that is in need of some rest. That's for damn sure. Everybody, I want to thank Papa J and Anthony C for tuning in and commenting live. We've got no more topics for the day, so unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And if you want to leave comments for us, even when we're not live, we respond to the comments as we see them. So, until next time. And 49er Media tuning in at the bell or at the buzzer says, "Sub Josh and Mike, sub 49er
So,
Media." It was a bad week. Um, NFL screwed us with the bye. I actually like later buys. I think that we just got screwed with injuries, and that's why it looks like we got screwed. But yeah, I want to thank Papa J, 49er Media, and Anthony C for tuning in. Until next time, Mike, any last words?
I'll say Papa J and 49er Media, you guys are not late. We're just early.
We are early. We started pretty early compared to normal. So yeah, actually, I apologize. You guys, I mean this. We normally start sometimes at like what 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think the ideal bye week is like week 10 to 12. Week 14 does feel really late.
It is really late, but like for a team that might be in the playoffs, like you get that rest right then and there. I don't know. I feel like the bye weeks should cap that off at like week 12.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Honestly, I would love it if like there was no bye weeks week 14 and then just for fantasy football just to bump the championship back a week because it doesn't feel right having it during Christmas.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Josh, it's okay. You started early since the Warriors played tonight. I am wearing a Warriors shirt, so maybe I will tune into the game. But with our injured guys returning late, it's actually perfect, says Papa J. Yeah, that's the show, guys. I'm so sorry. We'll definitely talk next week. And yeah, last words, Mike?
Probably next Monday. Peace.